understand their I've just been told that our audio link to YouTube is not working. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess to see if we can reestablish that link. Otherwise, anybody watching at home, they won't hear anything. I'm told it's now working. Recess adjourned. All right, so we're moving into declarations of conflict of interest. I understand there's at least 2 members. Councillor Carpenter, why don't you go first?
Yes, I have a conflict of interest with the St. Joseph's Revolutions. My daughter-in-law works for St. Joe's.
All right. Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. 13.4.10, What the Fest Music Festival, municipal significant event. The company that I am a representative of is the primary sponsor.
Does any other member need to declare a conflict of interest? Saying no, raised hands. So we'll move into the separation of items. And there are 3 items that have already been separated. The 2 that we just dealt with in terms of conflicts, which is the WTF Music Festival and St. Joseph's Life Care request for funding, and also 13.4.4, the proposed alteration to 84 Market Street, as there is going to be, I think we do have a delegation on that one, do we not? An amendment. All right. So are there any other items contained within the committee reports? Yes, Councillor Martin.
Yes, item 13.2.3, 13.2.4, and 13.5.2.
Okay. So 13.2.3, that's the airport. Right. Okay. And 2.4, the police station task force report. And 5.2, the debenture issue. Anything else? Anyone want separated? I would like to separate 13.4.2. It's the Indigenous History Month, so. All right, so not seeing any other raised hands. If I can believe Councillor Van Tilburg, you have the motion to approve the items that have not been separated.
Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Wall, that all items contained within committee reports 13.1 to 13.5, not separated for discussion, be approved.
All right, so before I call the vote, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of the items that we're voting on?
From your Human Resources Committee, item 13.1.1, Senior Project Manager, Children's Services in Early Years. From your Committee of the Whole Operations, 13.2.1, Joint Use Agreement with the Brantford and Norfolk Catholic District School Board. 13.2.2, Brantford Immigration Partnership Annual Update. 13.2.5, Discarded Cigarette Butts. 13.2.6, Willowbridge Community Hub. 13.2.7, Memorial Drive Speed Study. 13.2.8, Coachwood Road Speed Study. From your Social Services Committee, 13.3.1, Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Update. 13.3.2, Update on Childcare and Early Years, Update on Childcare and Early Years Workforce Project. 13.3.3, COVID-19 Social Services Relief Phase 4 Funding Update and Phase 5 Investment Plan. 13.3.4, Sunrise Villa, 11 Park Avenue, Brantford, 2021 Annual Water System Report. 13.3.5, Community and Affordable Housing Overview. From your Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration, application for zoning bylaw amendment PZ-01-2020, 130 Elgin Street. 13.4.3, 84 Carnificus Boulevard, application for Bell Mobility Inc. 13.4.5, West Brant Heights Phase 1 Subdivision Agreement. 13.4.6, HR-12 Policy Amendment to call in provisions for exempt staff. 13.4.7, request for employee and family assistance program funding. 13.4.8, implementation of written policy of disconnecting from work. 13.4.9, single source procurement of the 2022-2023 corporate insurance program. Premier Finance Committee, administration of the city grants program for the duration of July 2022 to March 2023. 13.5.4, first quarter casino update. 13.5.5, treasurer's annual report on lease financing agreement. All items not separated for discussion purposes have carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, councilors Sokoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Vento, Bourgeois, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move then to item number 6, which is somewhat unusual. It's the Brantford Local Housing Corporation Annual General Shareholder Meeting. And so I welcome all of you to the annual general meeting. The Brantford Local Housing Corporation, it's a corporation subject to the Ontario Business Corporations Act, which owns 864 units of social housing assets. These assets or units were downloaded from the province to the city of Brantford as its sole shareholder and service manager in 2001. These are the oldest residential units built predominantly in the 1960s and 70s. So you can imagine the work that goes into maintaining these units to keep them in a good state of repair for the citizens of Brantford and, of course, the county of Brant. Management of the LHC housing portfolio is provided through the Housing and Homelessness Services Department of Community Services and Social Development. That portfolio consists of high rises and low rise apartment buildings, townhouses, and detached houses. We're currently selling off the detached houses upon tenancy vacancy in order to create funds for additional higher density units. There are over 2,600 residents made up mainly of family households with children, singles, or couples without dependents, and seniors who call these buildings home. Those households pay rent geared to income, which is approximately 30% of gross monthly household income. Social assistance recipients pay rent based on social assistance rent scales. Housing and Homelessness Services staff provides day-to-day property management, rent collection, building maintenance, lease enforcement, and capital asset management functions. Tenants living in LHC units have a range of service requirements that may include eviction prevention services, mediation, problem solving in order to remain successfully housed. And we do have a resolution in our annual meeting, and I believe Councillor McCurry, you have that. Would you please confirm that, state your seconder, and then read your resolution?
Yes, thank you for that lengthy overview, Mayor. It's moved by me, seconded by Councillor Wall. And I'll read it as follows. This is the 2022 annual general meeting of Brantford Local Housing Corp. A, that the report from Board of Directors for the Brantford Local Housing Corp regarding the 2022 AGM be received. B, that the unaudited financial statements of the Brant and Brantford Local Housing Corp as of December 31, 2021 be adopted, and that the financial records of the LHC continue to form part of the city's overall external audit in lieu of the LHC's own external audit. C, that the corporation of the city of Brantford as sole shareholders of the LHC consents to the exemption from the requirement to appoint an auditor for the financial year of the corporation ending December 31, 2022, pursuant to Section 148 of the Business Corporations Act of Ontario. Indeed, that the following persons be appointed to the LHC's Board of Directors for a term to expire at the close of the next annual general meeting. City Mayor Davis, City Councillor Vanderstelp, City Councillor Sless, City Councillor Me, City Councillor Antosky, City Councillor Wall, County Mayor David Bailey, County Councillor LaFerriere, County Councillor Bell, County Councillor Miller, County Councillor Howes, and County Councillor Mac Alpine. And E, that the following incumbents, having been appointed as officers of Brantford Local Housing Corp by the directors, be ratified in the respective positions listed. The president is Mayor Davis. The vice president is the chair of Social Services Committee. The CEO is General Manager, Community Services and Social Development. Treasurer, Banking Signing Officer is the city treasurer. The secretary is our city clerk or designate. Signing officers are president and treasurer. And F, that the shareholders approve the minutes of the 2021 annual general meeting held May 25, 2021, as recorded at a meeting of Brantford City Council on May 25, 2021, which were adopted by the City Council at a meeting of Brantford City Council on June 22, 2021. That's the resolution, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCurry. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Item 6.1 being the 2022 annual general meeting of the Brantford Local Housing Corporation is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, Sless, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski Van Tilburg, while Mayor Davis.
Thank you. So we'll move on to statutory public hearings, recognitions of achievement, of which there are none this evening. So we'll move into item 9, proclamations. There are 10 proclamations before us this evening. Councillor Wall, would you please put the motion on the floor, moving all proclamations, and state your seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that the following proclamations be approved. 9.1, Supervised Parenting Awareness Month, May 2022. 9.2, Seniors Month, June 2022. 9.3, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, June 15th, 2022. 9.4, PTSD Awareness Day, June 27th, 2022. 9.5, Brantford Pride Month, June 2022. 9.6, Bike Month, June 2022. 9.7, National Accessibility Week, May 29th to June 4th, 2022. 9.8, Deafblind Awareness Month, June 2022. 9.9, National Indigenous Peoples Day, June 21st, 2022. And 9.10, Tourism Week, May 30th to June 4th, 2022.
Councillor Toski, would you please read the first proclamation, 9.1?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Supervised Parenting Awareness Month. Whereas Dalhousie Place supervised access has been an important part of this community for the past 28 years, and whereas Dalhousie Place supervised access has supported families in Brantford through custody, access, and divorce, and exists to provide safe visitation exchange centers. And whereas Dalhousie Place supervised access, funded by the Ministry of the Attorney General, has become known provincially, nationally, and internationally as a safe child-focused center. And whereas the Orange Ribbon Campaign is being held in May to raise awareness about the need and impact of supervised visitation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims the month of May as Supervised Parenting Awareness Month in the City of Brantford.
And Councillor Carpenter, if you please read proclamations 9.2 and 9.3.
Oh, 9.2, yes. Whereas the City of Brantford seniors are valued, contributing members of our society and deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And whereas the City of Brantford's 2021-2022 council priorities included a commitment to support older adults through age-friendly programs and initiatives. And whereas the City of Brantford works collaboratively with the Elder Abuse Awareness Committee to support the goals of the community strategy to prevent elder abuse. And whereas the Brant Elder Abuse Awareness Committee facilitates educational workshops that raise awareness of elder abuse and develops tools and resources that support residents and services provided in our community. And whereas Wednesday, June 15th, 2022 of this year is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporate City of Brantford hereby proclaim June 15th, 2022 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the City of Brantford.
And 9.3.
Sure. Whereas the City of Brantford seniors are valued, contributing. I just read this one? Oh, you want me to read Seniors Month? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Whereas June is Seniors Month in the province of Ontario, and whereas age-friendly planning was adopted as a fundamental strategy action to ensure it was adopted as a fundamental strategy action by this council to ensure a high quality of life for all citizens, and whereas social inclusion, social participation, and civic engagement were identified as priorities for age-friendly Brantford. And whereas Wednesday, June 1st, 2022 is Intergenerational Day, Wednesday, June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and the month of June is Seniors Month in Ontario. Whereas the City of Brantford continues to work collaboratively with a number of community partners, including seniors and kids intergenerational programs, Brant Elder Abuse Awareness Committee, and the Grand River Council on Aging. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporate City of Brantford hereby proclaim June as Seniors Month in the City of Brantford and celebrate strong community partnerships that support the City of Brantford as an age-friendly city. And the flag raising will be June 13th.
Thank you. And Councillor Curry, if you could read proclamation 9.4.
Mayor, thank you. This proclamation recognizes PTSD Awareness Day on June 27. Whereas post-traumatic stress disorder can occur after a person experiences trauma, including but not limited to the stress of combat, certain occupations, vicarious trauma, critical incidents, accidents, natural disasters, and affects about 1 out of 10 Canadians annually. And whereas PTSD is associated with chemical changes in the body's hormonal system and autonomic nervous system, and is characterized by symptoms including flashbacks, nightmares, insomnia, avoidance, hypervigilance, anxiety, and depression. And whereas those frontline and essential service workers who continued to work throughout the pandemic and risked their lives to serve others deserve the investment of every possible resource to ensure their lasting physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And whereas PTSD stress among persons working in these professions is more prevalent, given that they are often exposed to highly traumatic events on an ongoing basis. And whereas despite its treatability, many cases of PTSD remain undiagnosed and untreated due to a lack of awareness of this condition and the persistent stigma associated with mental health conditions. And whereas raising awareness of this condition is necessary to remove the stigma and to encourage those suffering to seek proper and timely treatment that may save their lives. And whereas all persons suffering from PTSD deserve our consideration, and those who are affected by it from wounds we cannot see deserve our respect and special honor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims Monday, June 27th, 2022 as PTSD Awareness Day in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. And Councillor Wall, if you'd read proclamation 9.5, please.
Thank you. Whereas June 1st is the kickoff day for the month of Brantford Pride 2022, and whereas in its 12th year, the Bridge and the Brantford Pride Committee invites all individuals to join together to make our community a diverse, safe, and proud city. And whereas inclusiveness is embraced by the community to support the physical, mental, spiritual, and social well-being of all its members, including the two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer community. And whereas there is a need to recognize that a community is made up of many diverse and unique groups, and that equity means a better life for all. And whereas the two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer community would like to annually celebrate Brantford Pride Month as they and their allies strive to create a healthy and safe environment now and in the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford does hereby proclaim the month of June as Brantford Pride 2022.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, if you would read proclamation 9.6, please.
Thank you. Whereas June is Bike Month in Ontario and is celebrated in communities across the province, and whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of the City of Brantford's scenic beauty, and whereas throughout the month of June, the residents of the City of Brantford will experience the joys of bicycling through increased commuter cycling, running errands up by bicycle, or by simply getting out and going for a ride. And whereas workplaces that support and encourage employees to commute by bike have noted benefits of increased employee productivity, reduced employee turnover, a boosted corporate image, and overall happier and more satisfied employees. And whereas Brantford is home to a strong and growing bicycle culture, an expanding infrastructure network, state-of-the-art facilities like the Brantford Rotary Bike Park, and home to 3 sections of the Trans-Canada Trail that attracts thousands of cross-country, regional, and local bicyclists each year. And whereas creating a bicycle-friendly community has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, growing the economy of Brantford, attracting tourism dollars, improving traffic safety, supporting student learning outcomes, and reducing pollution, congestion, and wear and tear on our streets and roads. And whereas the city of Brantford is promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education in an effort to reduce collisions, injuries, and fatalities, and improve health and safety for everyone on the road, supported through the council-approved Vision Zero Road Safety Plan. And whereas the city will be hosting the following events throughout the month of June to encourage cycling: Bike Month Community Scavenger Hunt, Bike to School Week, June 13th to 17th, community bike rides, bike pop-up booths, and free tune-up stations. And whereas residents are encouraged to visit the City of Brantford website to learn more about cycling in the city at brantford.ca/active transportation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims the month of June as Bike Month in the City of Brantford. And be it further resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the City of Brantford encourages all residents to participate in Bike Month and reminds all citizens to share the road safely with cyclists.
Thank you. Councillor Van Tilburg, if you could read 9.7.
National Accessibility Week, May 29th to June 1st, 2022. Whereas 15.9% of Ontario's population is living with some form of disability, and that number is expected to increase. Whereas disability awareness and education is important to create a culture of better understanding towards persons with disabilities. And whereas the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the AODA, was given royal assent in 2005, mandating that standards regarding accessibility shall be developed, implemented, and be under enforcement by 2025. And whereas the Accessibility Canada Act was given royal assent in 2019, emphasizing the need for all Canadians. And whereas standards in the area of customer service, information and communication, employment, transportation, and the built environment have been legislated in Ontario to remove and prevent barriers. And whereas the City of Brantford has adopted the principles of universal design and the Brantford Facilities Accessibility Design Standards, FADS, for all future building and renovation of city facilities. And whereas the City of Brantford has an active accessibility advisory committee with a mandate to eliminate barriers, which prevents individuals with disabilities from fully participating in our community. And whereas the City of Brantford has been taking positive steps towards the attainment of a more universally accessible city for all residents and visitors. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaim the week of May 29th to June 4th, 2022 as National Accessibility Week in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. And Councillor Scully, if you could read 9.8 and 9.9 for Councillor Vanderstelt.
Yes, sir. Whereas on December 21st, 2000, the Ontario legislature officially proclaimed the month of June in each year as Deaf Blind Awareness Month to recognize that deaf blindness is a unique disability that incorporates the sensory loss of both sight and hearing, and was created to help recognize that increased public awareness of this disability is crucial to increase opportunities for those who live with it. And whereas more recently, the Canadian Senate passed a motion on May 28th, 2015, to also recognizing June as Deaf Blind Awareness Month across Canada. This motion helps to promote public awareness of deaf-blind issues and to recognize the contribution of Canadians who are deaf-blind. And where June is also the birth month of Helen Keller, an internationally recognized person who was deaf-blind, and whereas National Deafblind Awareness Month is celebrated in communities across Ontario and Canada. And whereas Sensitive Deafblind and Sensory Support Network of Canada is a not-for-profit organization with a rich history of providing services and supports to people who are deafblind. Sensitive is proud to be recognized within Ontario, Canada, and around the world as a leader in the provision of intravenous services, the specialized role of those working with people who are deafblind to enable each individual to communicate with the world around them in their own unique way, to be heard and understood. And whereas Sensitive provides community and family programs across the province, including County and Brant, where 20 individuals who are deafblind live in a unique residential setting. And whereas June should be designated as National Deafblind Awareness Month to recognize and celebrate the contributions that individuals who are deafblind make in their communities with the support of interveners who serve as a bridge to communication for individuals who are deafblind. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims June 2022 as Deafblind Awareness Month in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. And Councillor Utley, if you could read the last proclamation, 9 point.
I think I'm up against Mayor.
Yes, you're going to read
Reading for
9.9
Councillor
for us.
Vanderstelt, yes. Whereas June is National Indigenous Heritage Month, and whereas in 1996, the then Governor General of Canada, Romeo LeBlanc, proclaimed June 21st of each year to be National Aboriginal Day, now known as National Indigenous Peoples Day, following consultation and statements of support from various Indigenous groups. And whereas National Indigenous People Day was established as a special day to celebrate the unique heritage, diverse cultures, and outstanding contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples in Canada. And where the peoples of Canada have and continue to contribute to the development and the future of this incredible country. And whereas June 21st, the summer solstice, is the longest day of the year and of significant cultural importance for Indigenous people. And whereas the City of Brantford is home to the over 5,000 people who identify as Indigenous and whose culture and unique heritage are an important part of what makes the community beautiful and diverse. And whereas the City of Brantford recognizes and celebrates the distinct friendship the city shares with the Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the First Credit First Nations. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims June 21st, 2022 to be the National Indigenous Peoples Day in the City of Brantford, and encourages all people in Brantford to recognize and celebrate the unique heritage, culture, and diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and to especially celebrate the culture and contributions of the Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the Credits First Nations.
Thank you, Councillor Sicoli. Councillor Utley, if you would read 9.10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. Whereas tourism counts as an important source of economic activity, creating jobs and prosperity and boosting community pride. And whereas tourism showcases the values of Canada, including resilience, peace, tolerance, and inclusivity. And whereas tourism contributes to attractive, livable communities. And whereas tourism creates opportunities for individuals and families to discover the diverse people, cultures, and beauty of Brantford. And whereas the Tourism Industry Association of Canada invites tourism partners across Canada to come together to promote the nation's destinations, tourism businesses, and employees during National Tourism Week, May 30 to June the 4th. And whereas Brantford's tourism sector has remained resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic, making extraordinary sacrifices and building long-lasting partnerships as they collectively displayed resilience and looked forward to a prosperous future. And whereas After 2 devastating years of tourism, support for the tourism industry, the industry first hit, hardest hit, and the last to recover from the pandemic is essential. And whereas this year's Tourism Week theme is Travel Now for Work, Life, and Play. And whereas Tourism Brantford will be hosting a series of events and engagement opportunities in celebration of Tourism Week locally, with more information available on social media at Tourism Brantford, in person at the Tourism Information Desk located inside the Wayne Gretzky Sports Centre, 254 North Park Street, or online at www.discoverbrantford.ca. And whereas local businesses are encouraged to light up their facades with glowing green all week long. Be like another Irish week. Glowing green all week long, sharing on social media, tagging at TIAC_AITC and at Tourism Brantford, and using the hashtags hash green means go, Tourism Week Canada 2022, Discover Brantford, and Tourism Counts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims May 30, June 4, 2022 as Tourism Week in the City of Brantford, and encourages all citizens to discover Brantford and champion Brantford's tourism destinations, businesses, and employees during this important week for the sector hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Utley. And so that's all of the proclamations. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
All proclamations have carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Vento, Burgwall, Mayor Davis.
So members, we have 2 registered delegations this evening. Prior to hearing the delegations, I'd like to remind those in the meeting today that the following rules of decorum as set forth in the city's procedural bylaw apply. No person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting other than materials that are legitimate audiovisual aids necessary in connection with presentation. All persons shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language to make any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only on the subject in debate and shall not speak to any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. First delegate, Mr. Peter Vicano. He's withdrawn his delegation request for this evening. I understand there may be an amendment when we deal with that from Councillor Wall. So we'll move to 10.2, which is David McKee, Town Crier. However, before we can hear Mr. McKee, we do have to deal with, since it's not on the agenda, a motion to waive the rules that allow us to bring the item before us tonight, and that would then allow Mr. McKee to speak to us. So, Councillor Carpenter, I understand it's your wish to move such a motion. If you would please confirm that, state your seconder, and then read in full the motion to waive rules.
It is my intent. My seconder is newly minted Rose Secoli, who helped me work on this resolution. New and old, me being the latter. Got to get there. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got to notice the motion, sorry. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rose Secoli, that section 15.11.5 and 15.3.12 of Chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived in order to introduce the following resolution without prior notice of motion and without having been considered at the committee of whole and standing committee. You want me to read that now? So whereas historically town criers were the chief means to communicating with townspeople prior to widespread literacy, and whereas David McKee was proclaimed the official town crier of the Corporation of the City of Brantford in 1992, and whereas the opening cry, "Oyez, oyez, oyez," and I know I'm not even close, and that was Rose's part, thank you, Rose. It's synonymous with community events in Brantford, and whereas Dave McKee can be seen and always heard at many of the Brantford ceremonies, festivals, and events, And whereas David McKee is an international town crier competitor recognized around the world, acting as a proud Brantford ambassador while winning multiple accolades, including 6 provincial championships. And whereas David McKee proudly and loudly spreads the word of Brantford's grand history and heritage, encouraging others to visit our beloved Brantford. And whereas David McKee spends countless hours researching and writing original and often humorous cries for every event he attends in his capacity as official town crier of the city of Brantford. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Corporation City of Brantford recognizes and expresses congratulations and gratitude to Dave McKee and Mrs. McKee, quite frankly, town crier of the city of Brantford for 30 years of enthusiastic and committed services and ambassadorship, and that the city provide a $2,000 contribution towards a new costume, probably not the right word, for Dave McKee, be funded from the Council Prayer Reserve Fund so the town crier can continue his strong representation of Brantford at local events and town crier competitions.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Sicoli. So any discussion on the motion to waive the rules? Seeing no raised hands, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
The motion to waive the rules is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0, achieving the 2/3 vote required. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sicoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So, Ms. McKee, since that was unanimous, you can now come forward, yourself and Betty Jean, and you have up to 10 minutes to speak to the item that's now on the agenda.
What do I do?
This one.
Oh, turn that. Oh, okay. All right. This is good, I think. I could have it up to maybe a bit more. How do you? There's something I saw here.
Dave raised it.
Oh, you do it. Up? Okay. Oh. Oh, perfect. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, beauty. So after listening to what Councillor Carpenter had to say, and what I had written, I might as well say what he said. Your worship, good members of council, fine folk here present, and those beyond the camera's eye. I am David McKee, town crier of Brantford. My thing flipped around on here. And I'm here attended by my wife and consort, Betty Jean McKee. 30 years ago tomorrow, the late Bob Taylor, mayor, read the following. Whereas the city of Brantford would greatly benefit from a strong voice both at home and abroad, publicizing her historical roots and future aspirations. And whereas a town crier uniformed to present Brantford's history would be most dramatic and a most dramatic and emphatic messenger. And whereas David V. McKee has secured financial sponsorship from the Brantford Regional Chamber of Commerce, the Brantford Downtown Business Improvement Area, and the Brantford Patriots in order that the town crier position should incur no expense to the ratepayers of Brantford. Be it hereby resolved that David V. McKee become official town crier for the corporation of the city of Brantford to cry proclamations, resolutions, and declarations, and to bring greetings and congratulations from the city of Brantford to other communities and to those groups and individuals deemed deserving. I do that deeming myself. Since that historic day, it has been my happy experience to carry out those duties, frequently with Betty Jean by my side. I split those duties into what I call the 5 C's: city, chamber of commerce, charity, competition, and corporate. City cries are wide-ranging. There have been openings of buildings, including the one we're in. The flag raisings to promote organizations, events at Harmony Square, park openings, and more. Pre-COVID, there were about 35 a year. For the Chamber of Commerce, there are monthly business after hours open houses and special celebration events. This adds up to about a dozen per year.
Charities account for around 30 fundraising and awareness events a year. They can be walkathons, motorcycle rides, big gala splashes, or whatever pops out of the creative imagination of an organizer. Then there are the competitions and other town crier events out of town. Thanks to the generosity of the people of Brantford, including the city casino money distributed by the Brant Community Foundation, Brantford's message has been carried to places as near as the Oktoberfest parade in Kitchener, or to the far reaches of central Otago, New Zealand, where I spoke, ready for this, to a Women's Institute Club about the Adelaide Hunter Hoodless Homestead. You know how many Women's Institutes they got in that particular little area? I think there were 6. I couldn't believe it. And they know about us. In competition, I am currently the Canadian champion, 6 times provincial champion, and twice second in the worlds. Having done well in competition has generated press coverage that I milk in Brantford's favor at every opportunity. Corporate cries include banquets, building openings, product launches, retirements, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, and even the odd funeral. And oh yeah, 1 divorce. Corporate cries could be financially lucrative if there were more of them. Speaking of the big bucks, people are often interested in how the town crier is funded. At first, as was stated in my appointment, there was officially no money for the town crier. However, by applying to various sources, specific items such as a new bell, a new hat were paid for, and even the first competition abroad. Later, an annual stipend was assigned through tourism. Charities and not-for-profit organizations do not pay anything normally, but if they offer an honorarium or if the town crier is part of a larger event where there are paid entertainers, all contributions are gratefully received. Another thing people want to know is, have there ever been other town criers in Brantford? Well, yes, that's the answer to that one. In 1984, Ontario's bicentennial year, town criers were appointed around the province, and there was a big competition in Ottawa. Brantford's town crier for that one was a young actress named Laurie Armstrong. But of greater interest to me is John Williams, who was mentioned in the town of Brantford council minutes starting on May 5th, 1849, and several more times by the ending on July 3rd, 1854. Trying to learn anything more about him has been extremely challenging. I don't know. I'd like to know what the guy, did he have kids? I can't find a darn thing about him. When I came to Brantford in the early 80s, I knew very little about Brantford. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce bringing me on board to be part of its 125th anniversary celebration in 1991, I was introduced to Brantford's colorful history, the wonderful world of town crying, and a new avocation. With very patient Betty Jean by my side and hearing all my cries before anyone else does, this 3-decade journey has given me the opportunity to tout the many virtues of a truly great city, both inside and outside its borders. So thank you very much for your kind forbearance in allowing me to speak today, and God save the Queen.
Thank you, David. So we do have some time for questions if any member wants to. Councillor Wall, I think you raised your hand.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I've been told that I'm supposed to ask you questions. I can't just talk to you. So my first question is, are you aware of just how much of an inspiration you are?
To whom?
To me personally. I've looked up to you since I was a little kid. Thank you for everything you do for
I
our
just
community.
love being part of it. And I love it when kids come up. I've had kids come up to me. I went to their school. I remember a kindergarten class that I went to. And they had very interesting questions like, why do you wear such short pants? Long socks, that's right. And ruffles. Anyway, the kid came up to me like years later and talked about how I went to their school, right? And that kid said, we thought you were there to arrest us.
Second question, how much is 2,000 enough?
I didn't know about this till he read it.
The quick answer, no.
Any idea what it's gonna
I
cost?
don't know yet. I've been looking, there's the guy that one person I got in touch with about this, about a new uniform. He's in Ottawa and apparently is really, really good. And he gave me some of the information I needed, but not all of it. And I've kind of been back and forth with him. And then Councillor Carpenter just sent me something today that I found very interesting. And I contacted that lady already. There was a lady that has a business here in Brantford. And I said, can I see some of your work? So I'm almost going to start from scratch with her to find out, because I'd rather work locally if I could, but I got to find somebody that's good. My previous seamstress that did so much wonderful work for me, unfortunately has arthritis and is not able to carry on anymore. What was that? Dollar. Oh yeah, I think probably by the time we're done, it'll be more like 6,000 or 7,000, probably. I would think.
And that's your burden to carry then.
What was that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Are there other speakers in the queue? Because I don't want to. Great. I had two more questions. I'm sorry. If somebody in the community who thinks that you're as awesome as I do wanted to help and contribute towards, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go?
Well, I'm always available through BrantfordTownCrier@rogers.com, of course. And I do have, I'm on Facebook. And through tourism, they always can reach me. So calling the tourism office, they've got all my contact information there and are allowed to give it out to the people that need it. So
I don't want to spoil anything, especially if your new costume is going to be for a reveal or anything. But I heard a rumor of why you might be wanting a new costume. Are we talking about that, or is it a surprise?
Well, you've asked, so I guess I should talk about it.
I would love to know. I mean,
okay,
because you look great.
Thank you.
But
the John Butler, the who founded the Butler's Rangers, was a really, really good friend of Joseph Brant. As a matter of fact, Brant did the eulogy at Butler's funeral. And but the thing is that a lot of people don't know that. So the uniform I've been wearing is this colonial outfit, and in this day and age, things seem to be taking an interesting turn where representing colonialism is not really a great thing. And so what I was thinking I'd like to do is to have an outfit based on Brantford's earliest industrial period, when the people were, people came to Brantford and were setting up businesses, and that would date us into the 1830s and 40s. So I've been looking at that. I found a hat maker. Hat will probably, and I wanted to make it as authentic as possible. And he can actually make me a beaver hat that'll run around $800 or $900. So I'm kind of like, oh, but he made this hat. He made the hat that Walter's wearing in that picture over there. He's a great hat maker. So I'm kind of thinking, well, if that's possible, I'll do it. If not, well, I could always go to a silk one.
excellent. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for everything you do. You're amazing.
Thank you.
And very much appreciated.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, David. And so I can assure we're going to be dealing with this very soon.
Okay.
Early in the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Oh, I guess.
All right, let's move then to item number 11, Clerk's Report Communications. Councillor Utley, if you would please move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the move by myself and looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor McCreary, that the clerk's report on communication for May 2022 be received. Thank you.
Any discussion? See no raised hands. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Clerk's report on communication is carried on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sicoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, and Tusky, Van Tilburg, Walmer, Davis.
All right, we'll move then to approving minutes. Councillor Martin, I understand you have that resolution.
I do. Thank you. I move seconded by Councillor McCreary that the following minutes be adopted. 11.1 Special Council, May 10th, and 11.2 Special City Council, Private and Confidential, May 10th.
Any discussion, any errors or omissions on those minutes? Seeing no raised hands, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
All minutes have carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Tuskegee, Van Tilburg, Walner, Davis.
All right, then we'll move to committee reports before dealing with the items that have been separated. Councillor Carpenter, why don't we deal with your resolution 16.1? And because you've already read the resolution, you just have to state the title and your seconder.
My moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rose Secoli. The anniversary of the Brantford Town Crier, David McKee. And can I speak to it?
Yes, discussion.
I just quickly speaking to it. David and I were talking about this some time ago. David's been town crier as long as I've been on council. So we've known each other for a long time. At the same time, Councillor Rose Secoli was also searching the town crier anniversary coming up and how long he's been with us. And I think it can't be understated how there isn't anybody that represents Brantford better than, other than when Wally was here, than Dave McKee. He loves Brantford. He loves everything about this community, and he speaks positively about it every chance he gets and every place he goes. He represents our community so positively with such vibrancy. And when he speaks for any organization in this community, he researches them, and he researches them as much as he can, so that when he gets there, he knows more about them than most of the visitors do. And he speaks to them in his town cry that represents them wholeheartedly, and everyone feels it. So he's a joy to young and old alike. And I know I just put a number of $2,000 in there. I know the uniform will be more than that. I just wanted to put a number in there because we should be giving something towards the cost of this. But we've been researching those that may volunteer. I know the Chamber of Commerce sent a letter of support just today to both Councillor McCray and I in support of this resolution. And I'm sure that they will ask them for some funding. I'm sure that they'll come up with some. And anybody in the community can contribute as well. That's appreciated David's cries over the years. It's not just David though. Mary, his wife, who's on I've served many committees, whether she's actually on my elder abuse prevention committee, she's on the healthy aging committee. She serves with him. I mean, David doesn't do any of this alone, as none of us do in our jobs, but she's alongside him, dressed in outfit as well, in regalia, Christmas time, or whatever the events may be. I mean, it's not David McKee, it's Betty Jean and David McKee really are the town criers. So they're a pair. We're so happy that they're part of our community, and I just wanted to thank them in any way we could. Thank you.
Councillor Secoli.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that Councillor Carpenter read that resolution so well. That Zoya, you do it so well. So if you ever kick us to the curb, I think we do have someone who might jump in and take your place. But I do want to point out that every single time I am at an event and I see David show up, I get this huge smile on my face and I feel like a kid again. I get so excited, and that is something that absolutely can't be replaced. And I'm so happy to second this resolution and to support it tonight. And I don't think we're going to have any problems passing it forward, but I always learn something new from your proclamations as well. I always learn something about the event that I'm at. And it just goes to show how much work really goes into this role. He doesn't just show up and talk really loud. He puts a lot of work into it beforehand. And the least we can do is contribute to a new outfit for you. So thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I have an amendment. I suspect it'll be friendly, but my amendment would be to strike costume and replace it with uniform. I see a thumbs up from Mr. McGee, so anybody who votes against this is not going to be seen as being in good light with Mr. McGee, but which is why I'm sure this resolution will be accepted as friendly. It won't even need to be voted on. We all know what a wonderful job he does anytime he shows up for an event. And as has been said, this is well worth the cost that the small cost there is through tourism. And I look forward to seeing him at many more events because it's always enjoyable whenever he does his cry. And nobody was surprised when you had trouble with the microphone because we all know you rarely use one.
Councilor Martin, I'm pleased to report that I've saw a very enthusiastic thumbs up from the mover and seconder, so it's friendly. And Councilor Antosky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief because I echo a lot of the sentiments that have been said. I can speak from experience as someone who has run some events, and David has very graciously come and opened some of them. And he'll ask a couple of questions and he'll take these little snippets, these little tiny pieces of information and turn it into this work of art. It's really quite impressive what you create from such little information. So I also thank you and really enjoy every time I see you. And this is the least that we can do. So thank you both to you and to Betty Jean. It's a pleasure to have you. I had never seen in real life a town crier before I came to Brantford. So that's a first and I love it every time. Thanks so much to both of you.
Councilor Wall.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. I'm going to get gushy. Civic pride is just something that you really can't, explain, but you feel it. You know it when you feel it. And it's like in Brantford, you've got the Lorne Bridge, you've got the Grand River, you've got the Bell Monument, you've got the Adelaide Hunter Hoodless Homestead, you've got, the Bell Homestead. You have these things you see, and immediately you're just so proud of your community. David McKee is not a thing. He's one of those people. You see him, and you just well up with your pride. You're just so proud of our community. And Councillor Sicoli said it. You go to an event and there's kids just in awe of this man with his great big voice and his beautiful words. But it's not just the kids. It's grown adults excited to see you, to run across and to be so proud of this community. And for you to take that show on the road, for you to be going all across this great country singing the praises of this community. There's no one else like you, and you are an inspiration. You're an inspiration to me, to this council, to this city, to the people of this city. You bring us back to the days of yore when people took so much pride in our community, and it is just incredible to see. And I know I couldn't do what I do without my partner, without my wife. I'm lost without her, and I know that you would be lost without yours. Betty Jean is also incredible. They say right beside every good man is a good woman, and you absolutely have an incredible partner. You're a dynamic duo. Thank you for coming to this council. Thank you for everything you do. You are a legend, Mr. McKee, and I am so happy to support this.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but I do want to add, David, that you have a wonderful sense of humor, and you always inject, where it's appropriate humor. And I think that really settles people down. It makes them feel comfortable. It's great for stressful situations, maybe, but you certainly do a great job of de-stressing people at events. So thank you for all you've done for our city. And I look forward to many years in a new uniform in the coming future. Thanks, David. And Imogen.
Well, I guess the last word is mine. Maybe. David, I wanted to say that I've seen you a number of times. We were interrupted for 2 years there. But the one thing beyond what's already been said that you never cease to amaze me is the originality of each cry. Like, I'm sure some criers might have sort of a standard template they pull off the shelf. I've never seen you do that. And in fact, what I've witnessed again and again is a lot of research, a lot of thought, a lot of originality, a lot of entertainment, and a really impressive show, not just through how you say it and your volume and the timbre of your voice, but it's definitely what you're saying and the thought you put into it. So I'm very happy to support this. You're a great ambassador for the city. And may I say, time and time again, you're going to these events essentially as a volunteer for many of them. So very happy to support it. Don't see any other raised hands. So, Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 16.1, 30th anniversary of Brantford Town Crier, David McKee carries on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we need a motion then to have the separated items put on the floor. Councillor Secoli, would you do that in the absence of your ward?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Carpenter. Thank you. That all items in the committee reports, items 13.1 to 13.5, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Thank you. So we'll now deal with each item that have been separated. And the first item is 13.2.3 Brantford Airport Board Committee Report. Councillor Martin, you asked this to be separated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only reason I separated this is I wanted to mention that the county has passed a similar resolution to support the visioning exercise for the airport. And hopefully that results in them giving us some support for the airport as well. I look forward to future discussions with the county about our airport and perhaps renaming it the Brantford Brant Regional Airport, or that even includes Six Nations in there, depending on what we come up with the visioning statement and what goes forward with it. So I just wanted to thank council for passing this at committee of the whole and hope this passes unanimously again tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
This is a more important resolution than most people would realize. And I say this to a lot of people that come to our community. If you were to cut out a map, buy 2 paper maps and cut out the map of the county, size of the county is not a county, it's the city of the county of Brant. And in the center of it is the city of Brantford. And we have the municipal airport, which is in the county. If you lay that county map over top of Hamilton area, you'll see that the county of Brant, the city of the county of Brant, is the second largest city in all of Ontario after Sudbury. So, and it's a city. So you know what's going to happen in this area when this becomes one metropolis 50 or 100 years from now. So maintaining an airport, which will be crucial. Hamilton has an airport, Kitchener has an airport, and an international airport. And we will have one too one day. And the only way we're going to have that is by securing the land that's around the airport to make sure that, and that means buying land and preserving it for airport uses or for industrial uses, so we don't have airports having to close because there's residents living underneath of them where they're flying. So it's important to have a plan, and Councilor Martin's quite right. The airport has always been very important for our economic development and a long-term future for what this area is going to look like long after we're gone. So I'm happy to support this, but it will have to come forward with support in long-term planning, and that will mean some money. But in the long term, it will be the best investment we've ever done. Thank you.
Any other speakers? So we'll take the vote on that. Yeah, Madam Clerk.
Item 13.2.3 Brantford Airport Board Committee Report has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Tanya. So we'll move to the next item separated, 13.2.4, the Police Station Task Force Report. And Councillor Martin, you asked for this one to be separated.
I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is to defer this for one meeting cycle. And I'm going to be voting against this. I don't think we need to delay this any further. When this report was voted on at committee, it was a 4-1 vote. And I don't think any of the four have changed their view of this. And I think it's just wasting some time by deferring this. We need to move forward with this fairly quickly, because any delays result in increased costs, because construction costs are escalating everywhere constantly with the current inflation that we have. So I would ask councilors to vote against this, to put it back on the floor so we can carry it and get it moving forward. Thank you.
Councillor Antosti.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Martin on this. I remember when this first came forward, I had some questions. I was a bit befuddled as to why we were taking this direction, but happy to see what came of it. There were some questions and wanted to see how this came forward. But when I hear that the vote is also 4-1, it doesn't sound to me like there's support at another level. And I personally don't understand why there is a push for downtown. We had a plan in motion. We started down that path, and now we're spending more money looking at another one. And as has been mentioned, time is costly these days, particularly in terms of construction. So I also will not be voting in favor of deferring this. I think it's time to move on with it. Thank you.
Councillor Scobie. Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. I recall a time not too many years ago when we had the same discussion about the Gretzky Center, and we moved with all great haste on the Gretzky Center. And that lesson perhaps has not yet fully been learned. We struck a steering committee to mimic what we did with Gretzky Center, which was to take control of the project politically and to ensure that the will of council, and in this case, both the will of council and the will of the Police Services Board, be entertained and be satisfied. I can appreciate why some folks want to forge ahead. And I hear the complaint about prices escalating daily. However, what we have before us is a report that's coming back from staff at a meeting of the steering committee on the final day of this month, which we've all inquired about, which is forthcoming. The report is ready. I was hoping we might have had a sneak peek at it before now, but that didn't happen. So I would ask members of this council to continue to endorse the deferral tonight. Let the new information come back to committee so the committee can deliberate on what we've asked for and what we've paid for. And we'll have a decision which can come to committee of the whole from the steering committee early in June. Respectfully, we gain nothing by not examining all options before us. The site selection search, in my opinion, was not all inclusive. It examined a number of options based on criteria, some of which were real head scratchers. So please let us have this deferral tonight. Give us another week or two to get the information back that we've requested and paid for. We lose nothing in time. And to those who are members of the committee, I would say that we have a lot of work to do to reduce the costs as it is. And we will do that work as we did previously. Let's make sure that we pick the proper site based on all the information that we're not possessed of as of today.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I don't think I'll be supporting the deferral. One of the things mentioned is moving the police station into like the downtown civic center area. And it's funny, you start communicating with some of the constituents in your area. We are plagued in our area with a significant high amount of criminal activity. And so one would say, well, so you would like to see the police station? It's like, no, not really. Because what happens is that the police station gets set up in there and everybody drives to the other areas of town. And we actually saw something similar to that back when the police station was down on Greenwich Street. So, there is plans to have satellite offices in the downtown, and that will be a dedicated force. That's not going anywhere. And so then you would see the redundancy of having a police force also in the same area. I also believe that the will of council and the members of the councilors that are on the police services board will be very diligent in maintaining and keeping the costs at hand with regards to what the new police station and the additions to the police station may look like. I have faith in the people involved, and I'll be supporting not going with the deferral.
Councillor Martin, procedural issue here. Madam Clerk, could you please put that part of the report up on the screen if you could share it? I think we're getting at, if you read 13.2.4 in the report from the committee, there it is. So it's the resolution is be deferred for one meeting cycle. So this is defeated, then like A, B, and C are gone. And maybe if you're thinking of what you're thinking, you might want to move an amendment that strike the deferral. And that would leave A, B, and C to be approved by this council. You might consider that.
Yeah, my understanding was that if we strike the deferral, the report automatically comes on the floor.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Yep. Okay, we'll deal with it that way. You should be in the chair tonight. Okay, so Councillor Well, you haven't spoken yet.
Thanks. I don't know what I'm going to say is going to add any value, but I'm struggling with this because we have a police station right now that has police officers that are out doing a great job, and they're not going to stop doing that. I don't know why this is so urgent. And I know cost of labor, cost of lumber, all that stuff, but I mean, we're not talking about delaying things tremendously here. We're just talking about a short deferral. And to me, this is a monumental decision for the direction of policing in our community. And that's worth an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 days, 30 days, or whatever it is here. This is going to leave a lasting mark on our community. Well, very much like moving the city hall. And the building that they have, honestly, I'm a little out of my element here. I just think that sometimes decisions take a little bit more time, and I can support the deferral just on the fact of the weight of this decision. And I hope that would convince some of my colleagues to do the same.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak to this, but I'm going to now maybe add some clarity. We've been working on a new police station for 4 or 5 years. It's been a while. The report here says that the Brantford Police Services Facility Redevelopment Project option comprehensive analysis be received, and the staff be directed to move forward with alternative one, which is the location where it is now. As decided and recommended in this report to proceed with detailed design phase, to get going on the design phase. Still lots of time for discussion. The staff be directed to present the updated construction costs to the 2023 Estimates Committee. So we would be looking at it in 2023 budget. Otherwise, we won't be looking at it then. We don't know where it's going to go. Is the deferral try and convince others to pick another location? My understanding, it passed 4-1. So who was the one? Is that why the deferral's here, because of the one, or is what's the deferral for? To convince others that voted in favor of this to change their mind? I don't know. I see no value in the deferral, and I don't believe in revisionist history that we can say, well, we saved a lot of money last time we did a deferral on the Gretzky Center. I was there. That's not why we saved money. We saved money because we cut a lot of things out, and some things we didn't cut out, thank goodness, like the track, there's lots of arguments during and there will be during this this design phase, there'll be lots of discussion and lots of things to be looked at, but every day you wait, you're spending more and more money. And is the committee going to ask, how much is the new reports that are going to be asked already from this new committee costing the taxpayers? How long is it going to cost them? How many times do we revisit it? How many times do we ask for another report and another report and another report till we get the answer we want, I guess? You know, you hire a consultant to tell you why wearing a red cap is a good idea. You'll get 50 pages of why wearing a red cap is a great idea because you paid for that. And that's what you bought. So I think it's time to move on. And I'm not going to support the deferral for that reason. And I think my council colleagues shouldn't support it either.
Yeah, before we go into second speakers, I'll say this, that I was in favor of the task force being formed because there are a lot of questions about a potential downtown location, about 7 or 8 of them. We've had several task force meetings. We've had a lot of information that's come to us from staff, including the senior staff of the police service. And it became fairly apparent that the downtown options are going to cost more money substantially than the Elgin Street location. And we also had Deputy Chief Saunders advise us that from the policing perspective, it was their preference to remain where they are because the police vehicles are not dispatched from the police station. They rotate through the community in different zones and are constantly on patrol. And they need a station that is on a major artery and is readily accessed from different parts of the city. And they said their strong preference was where they are now. And it was also clear that he also told us, in fact, the downtown location might exacerbate the crime situation downtown, that there's no studies that indicate having a police station in the downtown core acts as a disincentive to crime. In fact, he said when someone is released from the holding cells, when there are holding cells in the police station, they'd be released into the downtown. And he didn't think that was something that would be very desirable. He confirmed for us that there will be, with the downtown beat patrol that should be in place this summer, that working with Laurier, that the downtown beat patrol, special constables, police service will have a downtown presence, an office location. So they'll have a presence, but their presence will really be on the street patrolling. And so it became apparent to me that, yes, we had questions from the community. Can we do it downtown for similar cost? And because all things considered, maybe we better to have it downtown, maybe not from a policing perspective, but for other reasons. And it became apparent to us at the last task force meeting that you can't. It's, in some ways, it's putting a square peg in a round hole. And so there were questions asked. There were fair questions, but I can say this for me personally, they wouldn't have made any difference in the decision that I made at that task force. So I thought it was a useful exercise. We took a good hard look at the options. It clearly showed, in the view of 3 of the 4 members, that the Elgin Street location is the desired location. And there is this issue of construction costs. They're rising dramatically almost monthly. And any delay unquestionably will increase the cost, and also a real inconvenience for the members of our police service who are looking. They're desperate. They need additional space. They're well beyond the capacity of the current station. And so for those reasons, I think that we should proceed and we should not support the deferral. So, Councillor Tustin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that commentary about the police preference and understanding a little bit more about the functionality. I think we should certainly be taking that into consideration. I'm going to go back to a couple of the questions I asked when this first hit the floor again. So through you to staff.
Point of order, Mayor. Did you say there are second speaking opportunities on this council item tonight?
Right, he's right. He's right.
You got me. You're right. You're completely right. Sorry, Councillor Dosky. Okay. So anybody else want to speak who hasn't spoken already? All right, Madam Clerk, please take the vote. So if you're voting yes, you're voting, sorry, if you're voting yes, you're voting to defer. All right. So if you don't want deferred, you would vote no.
Item 13.2.4, 2022 to 237 Police Station Task Force report has failed on a recorded vote of 2-7. Those voting in favor, Councillors McCreary and Wall. Those opposed, Councillors Sicoli, Utley, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski Van Tilburg, Mayor Davis.
So it is on the floor as a separated item without the deferral. So is there any further discussion on the resolution as it reads without the deferral? Saying none, other than I'd like to say to Councillor McCreary, the next stage in this task force is going to be the sharpening of the pencils. We look at the Elgin Street location, and I can't think of a more qualified, more experienced, and better able councillor to lead that exercise to assist us in making sure that we have a station that meets the needs of our service, yet at the same time doesn't impose an undue burden on the taxpayer. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the vote.
Item 13.2.4, 2022 237 Police Station Task Force report minus the deferrals. The deferral's been struck. Has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sicoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so the next item is item 13.42. It's the 2022 Indigenous History Month Programming and Marketing. I'd like to say a few words about this because it wasn't discussed and separated at Committee of the Whole. And I think it's worth noting a couple of things. This resolution says that our Indigenous History Month will be the month of June. And you recall last year, our resolution had that as the month of July. But nationally, it's June. So in consultation with local Indigenous groups, it was determined better to have our local Indigenous History Month coinciding with the national. So it in fact is the month of June, and that's what the resolution says. There is in the resolution, it sets out a very extensive programming that's going to take place the month of June in respect to celebrating the history, the heritage and diversity of First Nations, Indigenous in this area, and also across the province and in the country. There's going to be an extensive communication campaign in collaboration with local Indigenous organizations involving a very extensive social media campaign, the wrapping of buses, various events. Also, it includes, very interestingly enough, a proposal that staff be provided at least a resolution or proposal come forward for training, overseen and to some degree the advice of our new Indigenous Affairs Advisor, and it's going to be making our staff more Indigenous sensitive in terms of the issues, understanding the history, which we think will very much serve to improve the administration of the city and how it responds to Indigenous requests and Indigenous issues. Lastly, we did have this morning, I was invited by the Secretariat, the Survivor Secretariat, and also the group that's organizing. It was a celebration of the opening of the first stage of the Mohawk Village Memorial Park. And this is on the grounds of the Woodland Cultural Institute. It's actually, we were told by the survivors, it's to the right as you go up that main driveway. It's in the area where the girls who attended the school, they had a very fenced off, restricted playground. And that they were absolutely prohibited from entering the apple orchard, which was at the entrance of the facility. And so the survivors spoke about some of their experiences. They talked about the meaning to them of having this, what's going to be a beautiful park, a commemorative park, and it's truly meaningful to them. And I think it'll be meaningful to the residents, the city, and the province, because they've got a great website. You should go to it if you have a minute. It's just Google Mohawk Village Memorial Park. It's a really well done website. You'll see what it is they have in mind, and it's going to be a park that not only is in honor of the children who attended the Mohawk residential school, and there were many of them, 15,000 from 1834 to 1970. But it's also intended, and you'll see in the design, it's intended to become a place where people can gather in peace and friendship and to learn from each other. They have a very ambitious fundraising campaign. They need $5 million to complete the entire park. Right now, they have a pavilion and a walkway. It's the first step. It's also named Mohawk Village because it also references a part of our history that isn't really well known and something that we need to come to terms with in our community. And that was the location of the Mohawk Village. And that was before the residential school was established. In fact, the village was established in 1788 by Joseph Brant and 400 of his followers. They came up about 4 years after the Holland Proclamation, and they established a village there. And that's in and around where the residential school is today, or the building that's left there. And in 1841, the government made a decision to move, and I think it was primarily Mohawks who were in that village, and to move them south of the river to where the current reserve is situated. And there was burning of the buildings they had there, except for the residential school. The first version was there at that time, and also the chapel. And so the move, I think, is something that's not well understood in our community, how it was, how it happened, why it happened, and the impact on the Indigenous, and in particular the Mohawks. So the Mohawk Village is intended to educate us in our city and our residents about that history. So it was a very moving ceremony. It also involved the planting of apple trees, because there had been apple trees and apple orchard that the survivors had asked be taken down because it symbolized to those who attended the school the oppression. Like, for example, they worked the orchard, but they couldn't eat any of the apples, and they were subject to severe corporal discipline if they snuck in there and took it. So it became a symbol of how they were oppressed. And so it was very meaningful to see youth from Six Nations who actually are in an educational immersion program where they are learning the Mohawk dialect, and they speak that every day. And they were a large part of the presentation to see them planting the new apple trees in the orchard, signifying rebirth, hope, harmony, and hopefully potential reconciliation. So it's a very moving ceremony. This park is absolutely beautiful. I have planned. There will be a fundraising campaign that I hope we'll be able to support. And we've got some great events coming up in June for Indigenous History Month. And it certainly is something that I think we need to celebrate and talk about. So Councillor Ntoski, I think you had your hand up. You did. Okay. Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, thanks for that educational, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure it was more than 5 minutes, but it was well worth it. I would like to see us all do what most people in most communities are doing and most organizations are doing, and that we could at least do the land acknowledgement at the beginning of our meetings in the future. And I'm sure that's coming, but I'm hoping that that's part of the education. Thank you.
So not seeing, Councillor Wall.
No, I just raised my hand now. Thank you, Mayor Davis.
All right.
No, I have
Go ahead.
something to say I'd like to share. Yeah, sorry. one of the greatest gifts that I have been given in my role here as a city councillor is just learning so much about the people who call this community home, the different peoples, the different walks of lives, the different stories. And this didn't get separated at committee of the whole, just I think because of so much was going on, and I'm so thankful that it is separated here today. I'd call upon anybody who calls this community home or anybody who calls our country home to look to this Indigenous histories that make up our home. This land right now that we sit on, thousands of years of histories, not one history, of many different peoples, many different cultures, many different beliefs. And the thing is it's not something that you just reflect on. It's something that exists right now. There are new songs being written, new stories being told, new elders who are coming and really want to tell their stories. This community, the fabric, the cultural fabric of this community is woven from those stories and from that history. And I hope that every business and every person in the community is inspired to go and speak with some of our neighbors and to learn their stories and to learn their beliefs. I hate to say this, but it has to be said. History is broken and it's wrong. So much that's in our textbooks that's taught to children in schools, even today, doesn't even mention. And that needs to change. We need reform. We need understanding. We need communication. We need to continue to examine our history. You can't get where you want to be without looking at where you were. And when you don't even talk about where we were, so things like this, while they may seem at surface level, especially to some keyboard warriors on social media, that this is just something we're doing. It's not something we're doing. It's something that has to be done. If you don't make a statement that enough is enough, that we're going to talk, we're going to learn, we're going to work together, we're going to communicate, and we're going to recognize the thousands of years of history of incredible people right here. This is great work. Thank you for what you're going to do and for everybody who takes advantage of this. So sorry, but we need to do a better job. And this is all part of just being better people. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 13.4.2, 2022 Indigenous History Month Programming and Marketing and Regional Indigenous Education and Reflection Month has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sicoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, move to item 13.4.4. I believe, Council, that's the proposed alteration to 84 Market Street. Councillor Wall, I think you've got amendment.
You are right, Mr. Mayor. Can I get it on the screen? Sorry. Great. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dan McCreary, my counterpart on the Heritage Committee, I might add, that Clause B of item 13.4.4 be struck and replaced with the following. That heritage permit application HA 04-22 for 84 Market Street be denied as the applicant has withdrawn the request on May 24th, 2022. Can I speak to it?
To the amendment, yes.
Great. This is just good work by the applicant. They proposed something. It wasn't supported by the Heritage Committee. It wasn't supported by staff, and it wasn't likely going to be supported by this council, but who knows? So rather than pushing it, or they're going to go back to the drawing board, they're going to resubmit, they're going to go to the Heritage Committee, they're going to try to work with the Heritage Committee to make everybody happy, which is going to be fun. And it's just, this is a good amendment because it just shows that, you know, things are possible when you work together and you communicate, kind of like what I just said a few minutes ago. I just think, thank you, Councilor McCreary, for seconding it, and I hope this council will support it.
Right, not seeing any other hands raised. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the amendment?
The amendment for item 13.4.4, proposed alteration to 84 Market Street, a property within the Victoria Park Square Conservative District designated under Part 5 of the Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HA 04-2022, has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Scoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we have it as amended on the floor. Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, I want to thank members of council for their support on this item and for the support on heritage issues in general that this council has almost unanimously supported throughout the term of council. When I look at this before me tonight, I think back not too many years when the outcome tonight would have been quite different. When the pattern seemed to be that the Heritage Committee would make a recommendation to council, which was then overlooked or overturned because prior councils had no respect, no issue, and no love for the heritage of this community. We've really turned a corner here in the last number of years, and some of that's also due to the folks that sit over there at the staff table. We've really made strides here, and I want to thank those of you who've always been supportive, and those members of this group that have been late supporters of heritage. It's important to our community, as I said, Mayor, and I know the committee especially enjoys the support of the mayor and all these issues that come before us.
Councillor Wall.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. I want to echo what Councillor McCurry said in many ways. The Heritage Committee is a lively committee. And if you don't watch our meetings on YouTube, I highly recommend you check them out. You know, they're not all 3, 4, 5 hours long. Some of them are only 2.5 or 2 hours and 45 minutes. But the people who sit on the Heritage Committee and staff who give their time to be on that committee as well, they care so much about the history and the heritage and the culture of this community. And they're volunteers. You know, they're volunteers who take time out of their day to do endless hours of research, working in conjunction with our local museums. And it's just, I've been on the Heritage Committee longer than I've been on council. And the work that they do, the work that I guess we do, is good work. And like Councillor McCurry said, it is great to see people like the applicant who we're talking about now respect their opinion and want to work with them, but also for this council to respect the opinion of the committee that we select and elect or claim or appoint. Thank you, Councillor Antosky. You continue to be an incredible valued resource sitting next to me. So I just want to say thank you to the members of the Heritage Committee, all our committees, of course, but we're talking about heritage today. So thank you.
Seeing no other raised hands, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Item 13.4.4 as amended has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Scoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So we'll move to the next item, 13.4.10, the WT Fest Music Festival. There's a conflict. Councillor Wall, any discussion? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 13.4.10, What the Fest Music Festival Municipal Significant Event Declaration was carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Scoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Antosky, Van Tilburg, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Wall's conflict.
Next item is the debenture issue for long-term financing for the renovation of 5870 Dalhousie Street project. Councillor Martin, you asked for this to be separated.
Yes, I did. This resolution, Clause C is the important one in my opinion, because Clause C says that the city will purchase this internally. This is something that I've been pushing for on the Finance Committee since we resurrected the Finance Committee many years ago. And it's nice to finally see it happening here tonight. This is a way for the city to get better interest rate instead of borrowing at a high rate and getting a low rate on our investments. This way we can get a better rate all around and save the city financially. So it financially makes excellent sense. It's something we should have been doing a lot sooner, but I'm glad staff have recommended we do it with this one, and I hope to see more recommendations like this in the future. Thank you.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. I wonder if staff could remind us what the total bill for this building was.
Through Mr. Mayor, the total bill for the building is $30 million, Councilor McCreary.
That's the finished product?
Actually, the
Last
budget,
building.
actually, if I can, through Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councilor McCreary, for cutting you off. I answered that incorrectly. The budget was 30 million. The actual rate to date has been 29 million. We're $1 million to the good on this building, underspent on the development of this building.
Did that include the work on the clock tower?
It has not, the work on that has happened. There is facade work next year, but there will be work happening over the summer on the clock tower with some of the extra monies, but it will be included in the budget. Yes.
So there's a million left of the kitty.
Approximately, yes, Councilor McCreary.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Hey, yes, I agree with Councillor Martin. This is the better way forward, and that's why I supported it at the Finance Committee. But now we're here at council, and I won't be supporting this because I haven't supported any kinds of funds and funding for this building. As at the time when it was all started, I didn't believe we needed two city halls. We've got one now and something to get rid of. This has just never been my game, my field, my playground. So I'm not supporting it today either.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see we got our finance staff here. Joel, this isn't the first time that we've purchased our debentures internally, is it?
Through Mayor Davis to Councillor Carpenter, it's not the first time. We currently have 5 other internal debentures currently ongoing that we have purchased portions of internally, much smaller than what's proposed in this report.
Yeah, but we've been purchasing in-house for some years, have we not?
Through you, Mayor Davis, the oldest one that we currently have that we're still investing in is from 2008.
2008. Okay, so that's what I thought. I didn't think it was the first time we were doing this, but Councilor Martin is correct. He's been pushing for us to do this on a regular basis, and this is one of those cases where we're doing that, but it's not something we just all of a sudden did. We've been doing it since 2008. Thank you.
Great. No other speakers. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on this item?
Item 13.5.2, debenture issue for long-term financing for the renovation of 58 to 70 Dalhousie Street project has carried on a recorded vote of 8-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski. Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Van Tilburg.
All right. Thank you. So we'll now deal with item. There's one remaining separate item. It's 13.5.3, St. Joseph's Life Care request for funding. And Councillor Carpenter has a conflict. And I believe Councillor Utley, you may have an amendment that you want to put on the floor.
I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to move an amendment, and it's seconded by Councillor Secoli, that item 13.5.3 be amended to include clause B as follows. B, that $100,000 be provided annually from the community group's reserve RF 0569 to the Stedman Community Hospice for a period of 5 years. Further to this, Mr. Mayor, and I would like to recognize some members that are here from the Stedman Hospice. We have Judy Powell, the President and CEO. We have Sandra Wilson, And I can't remember the rest of your names, I'm sorry. But thank you for being here this evening and showing your support. So I agree with many of the comments that have been said that the Ministry of Health should be providing more funding to hospices. And they don't. That's the reality that the hospices have to deal with. So they're stuck in a bit of a netherworld where they have to go out more to the community and raise the funds that they need desperately to raise funds to operate the organization. And recently there was a hike for hospice, very successful. And I thank all the volunteers and the board for the great work that you do in that regard. We all agree that the Stedman Hospice provides outstanding end-of-life care to patients and their families. I don't think any of us disagree with that. The hospice is an important community asset, which is operated by amazing healthcare professionals and supported by, I think, hundreds of volunteers. I might be wrong with the hundreds, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were hundreds of volunteers. Please support this amendment to provide $100,000 a year over the next 5 years, so the hospice can provide much needed care to this community. So I like to hope that I don't believe I'll get full support, but I hope that there's enough support on council that we can commit to the hospice for the next 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ntucky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll support this wholeheartedly. This is a gem in our community. If anyone has had a family member or a friend that has been graced to be a part of the hospice, they know how important that is at someone's end of life, and how comforting it is, not only for the patient, but for the family. And I think that this is about humanity. This is about respect. This is about accepting death in the best way that you possibly can as a family member or as the person who's ill. I've seen the work that they do there. I see how each patient is treated individually for what they like and what their interests are. The gardens, if you haven't walked through the gardens, they're fantastic, and I think also maintained by a number of volunteers. And so this is really just this is for me about humanity and something that we should really get behind. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As someone who has had both family members and friends taken care of at the hospice, I know they do wonderful work. I know it's an amazing facility. However, it should be funded by the province. We give them money for capital when it was being built. We give St. Joe's money for capital when we moved beds over from John Noble Home. To be funding operating, I think, is a slippery slope. What happens in 5 years when we stop giving them money? Do they come back asking for more? Does this become something that's permanent? And what we have to keep in mind is we want to see the Brantford General expanded, and the city's going to be on the hook for some of that. So we need to start saving for that. And the money that's going to the hospice now could instead be, with this amendment, I think should be put towards the hospital expansion, because the municipality has contributed to capital for a lot of healthcare within our community. And I agree with that, but we should not be contributing to operating. And for that reason, I won't be supporting this, even though I know they do amazing work at that facility. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Martin's correct in that the province should be ponying up significantly to cover the gaps that aren't being met in our community. That's 100% true, but it's not happening. And people in our community know, love, and respect the hospice and the people that work there. And so when I'm looking at spending their money on things that we shouldn't technically be spending it on, this is about as good as it gets, because people won't complain about what we're doing. They may complain about who should be doing it. Because I complain about who should be doing it. But that's no reason not to pick up the slack and not to let things not get done. So I am personally comfortable with supporting the amendment. My story goes back. Many of our coworkers have been there. And when I worked for GenFast and we were closing and gone into bankruptcy, I had a union local and we weren't allowed, we were bankrupt and guys were broke, but we weren't allowed to actually give the union dues we had back to them. We didn't know what to do with it. Well, actually we did. We gave it to you guys. The last thing we could possibly do with the bank account. That's how much you mean to the community. And I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, Councillor Wall.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. Is there anybody from staff who can answer questions on this item?
Through Mr. Mayor, the financial questions in the report, Joelle Daniels is right behind that little wall. You can't really see her, but she's here ready to answer questions. Yes.
Hi, Joelle. Okay, I don't want to cast stones or anything like that, but this is a really heavy burden for the municipality, no matter how important it is. Who would traditionally provide this funding?
Through Mayor Davis, the city has intermittently provided the hospice with funding over the years. In all cases, that funding has come from one of the casino funded reserves.
But if the I mean, is there a provincial department or minister or somebody who would?
So I can speak to that through Mr. Mayor. I mean, and again, the experts are in the audience, but having some experience with hospice, being on board of the hospice, most of the funding is funded by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, usually up to 80% of the beds that are unoccupied, and other monies come from donations and other receipts of monies from other organizations. But normally it's funded by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care provincially.
Okay, so I've been getting emotional at council a lot, so I'm trying not to. The work that they do at the Stedman Hospice is it's just great work for people who desperately need it. And there's no I can't bring myself to not support this. But I really just think that just supporting it and not sending like a strongly worded letter to the ministry saying, look, help us pick up the slack. Like, I don't know if we can amend it. Like, I want to see something in writing from the city saying that this is a necessary service and they need this money. So we're going to do it, but we're going to do it and we're going to hope that you'll step in and pick up the slack. That something we can do? I'm kind of looking at you, Mr. Mayor, be your name on that paper.
You could pass a separate resolution sometime later if you want to do that, maybe through a notice of motion.
Not an amendment. I'll leave it for now.
Yeah.
I just think this municipality has a lot of responsibilities. We've got roads, we've got housing, there's so much that we have to do. And it is hard for me to support this, not because it's not a good cause, just because people are going to ask, well, where's my $100,000 for the next 5 years? And I want to give it to everyone. So I am going to support this tonight because someone has to. And I would use that argument until, I don't know what else to say. If you're listening, province, could you please pay attention to Brantford, Ontario, Canada, because we desperately need your help to deal with some of our major societal issues. And my phone number is no.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thanks. Well, nobody gets out of here alive, right? Everybody dies, and a lot of the people in this community die with the care and compassion they receive at our hospice. And I say our hospice because it belongs to this community. As Councillor Martin said, I've had friends and family that have been through there, and it's not just the patient that receives the gentility and the compassion from the staff and the volunteers. It's the whole family. It's the end of life experience for folks. I just couldn't say no to you. It's $1 a head, 100,000 people, 100,000 a year, $1 a head per year, times 5 or 3 or whatever. And if you come back for more, we'll give you more. And for those of you that are watching that also want money from us, please don't commit. Thank you.
Well, my position on this is a little more nuanced, and I'll actually support the amendment, but I won't necessarily support the resolution as amended. I think the amendment makes sense in the sense of the 5-year commitment, because I've seen the history here, and it's the hospice comes combined with St. Joe's Life Care. Every year they come with a 1-year request because that's kind of how it's evolved. And every year it becomes an exercise where it almost seems St. Joe's and the hospice feel compelled to demonstrate there's some new need for the money rather than saying we just simply need the money to meet our operating budget. And that's, I think, to make it more palatable politically. And that must create havoc for St. Joseph's, the organization budget. You're not going to know from year to year to year what's going to happen. So I think the amendment, the part of it that says a 5-year commitment, so the next council is not dealing with this year in, year out and agonizing over it and becoming kind of an awkward exercise for both us and St. Joseph's. I don't think that makes sense. I think if you're going to make a funding commitment to an organization like this, you make it for a time period likely and logically 4 years, as that matches a term of council. So I can support the amendment because of that. I won't necessarily support it once it's amended, but we'll see if the amendment passes and then I'll say why. So I'm not seeing anyone else speak to the amendment. So Madam Clerk, on the amendment.
Item 13.5.3, St. Joseph Life Care request for funding has carried on a recorded vote of 7-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sokoli, Utley, McCurry, Antofsky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Martin, noting Councillor Carpenter's conflict.
All right, so the resolution as amended. So now on the floor is receiving the report and approving the funding for the hospice over a 5-year period. Any discussion? Seeing none. And I will actually join Councillor Martin. And, maybe politically it doesn't make sense, but when I look at this and we see many other instances where the province doesn't fully meet a funding requirement for something that's their responsibility. And it also almost becomes like a default. Well, the municipality will take care of it. And we don't have the kind of tax base or the ability to operate with the deficit that the province and the federal governments have. And clearly healthcare, without any question, is a provincial responsibility. And in some ways, it is a bit of a slippery slope. If we fund this on something that a municipality would not normally pay for, in fact, we'll be, I think, the only municipality in Ontario that does. Is that correct, Joelle?
Through our research, Mayor Davis, that is correct.
Right. So for that reason, I can't support it because on a basis of principle, and there is a point that Councillor Martin made that we have a very huge funding commitment that's coming up for the hospital rebuild over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And we have to start putting money aside in a reserve to pay. It'll be millions and millions of dollars that will be asked to contribute to the capital cost of a new hospital. So it's a tough decision because who doesn't like the hospice? Who doesn't recognize the superlative service and assistance that the hospice provides? Nobody denies that. In fact, it makes it a very, very hard decision. But based on principles, based on if you allow the province to do this, then it'll happen elsewhere. They'll just like kind of shrug their shoulders and say, well, municipality will take care of it. And I don't think that's fair to the municipality. I don't think it's fair to the property taxpayers. So for that reason, on principle alone, although I don't have a problem with it, if the council decides that there is a funding commitment, doing it in 5-year batches, that's fine. I think that's appropriate. On principle, I can't support it. So any other discussion? Councillor Rattler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wonder if the next council and AMO, we could put some pressure on the Ministry of Health to fully fund hospices throughout the province. I would say maybe not fully fund, but fund more than they're doing right now. There's always a strong demand for the care that you provide. There'll be a growing demand in the years ahead. And I think there needs to, if we go to them as a municipality, single municipality, we're not going to have a strong voice with the minister. This is something that needs all of the cities that have hospices to have one voice in unison saying, this is what you need to do. The burden is falling on us for something you should be doing. And that needs to change. So I think if we formulate, it's deserving, I think, doing some research, meeting with other cities and working out a strategy and a plan to make sure that hospices are getting the funding they need, but always have fundraisers, because I think it generates so many other, it generates revenue and it generates community input and support as well. So thank you all for what you do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Seeing no other speakers, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on the resolution as amended.
Item 13.5.3, St. Joseph Hunter request for funding is carried on a recorded vote, as amended, has carried on a recorded vote of 62. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, and Toski, Van Tilburg, one, Mayor. And those opposed, Mayor Davis, Councillor Martin.
All right, so that deals with the items that were separated. So let's move on to notices of motion. And we have 3 notices of motion. And I think, Councillor McCurry, you've got the first one. If you'd read the title.
Mayor, thank you. It's a resolution of support regarding vehicle noisemaker legislation.
And Councillor Van Tilburg, I think you've got the second one.
Area of roadway improvements.
All right. And Councillor Utley, you have the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Transit service to Hershey Chocolate Plant.
Now, Councillor Secoli, I understand you have 2 motions, notices you want to give, but you haven't, no. Okay, so 1. So we'll go to you first, Councillor Secoli. Understand you want to move to waive the rules so you can bring your notice of motion tonight without providing the usual notice.
That is correct. So I'm asking for this to be added to the agenda without it being on the agenda when it was sent out. And the reason for that is just simply timing. We want to make sure that there's no more delays with the Southwest Sports Complex. And so I want to make sure that we get this in the June meetings so that it can get onto the appropriate committees for discussion.
So if you please read it.
Oh,
and
sure.
state your second.
So I knew you were going to ask me why I didn't have it on, and I just jumped to that. Okay. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Carpenter, that section 15.11.5 of chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived in order to provide the following notice of motion without having been included in the agenda for this meeting. Whereas Brantford is known as the tournament capital of Ontario, and whereas in 2021, cricket was recognized as the fastest growing sport in Canada with over 40,000 players across the country, and whereas the number of cricket players and fans living in and visiting Brantford is also growing, and whereas the city currently has no dedicated cricket facilities available, and whereas the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan speaks to the need for cricket facilities, and whereas the Municipal Sport Tourism Strategy of 2019 speaks to numerous strategic priorities related to sport infrastructure and competitive advantage. Now therefore be it resolved, A, that staff be directed to investigate interim options available for utilizing existing city parks for playing cricket. And B, that staff be directed to investigate permanent locations, including phase 2 of the Southwest Community Center and Park, where cricket can safely be played with potential equipment storage and capital and/or operational impacts for the permanent locations by Q3 of 2022.
Any discussion on the motion to waive rules so the notice of motion can be read tonight? Councillor Van Tilburg.
What was the reason to waive the rules?
Councillor Scully already told us, but why don't you tell us again?
Just that we do have an upcoming committee with the Southwest Sports Complex, and we've already faced some delays with that project. So we want to make sure that we don't continue to face those delays. So in order for this to get to that meeting on time, it would have to be discussed in June by this council.
Any discussion on the motion to waive? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
The motion to waive the rules for 16.5 notice of motion cricket facilities has carried on a recorded vote of 9-0, achieving the 2/3 required. Those in favor, Councillor Sicoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So Councillor Sicoli, would you please read the title of your notice of motion? Go ahead.
Cricket facilities.
All right, now Councillor Antosky, I think you have something similar.
Thank you, Mayor. I do. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Carpenter, Silverbridge Park, that section 15.11.5 of chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived in order to provide the following notice of motion without having been included on the agenda for this meeting. Whereas Silverbridge Park entrances include Dante Crescent, Ludlow Crescent, and Gillen Crescent. And whereas the entrances from these locations are not user-friendly and have no pathway connectivity to the playground area. And whereas the park is used by all ages from children to active seniors, and whereas the detailed design is currently underway for playground and pathway improvements with construction in 2023. And whereas the users of this park have reached out to the ward councillors requesting that pathways be constructed to allow for better accessibility, now therefore it be resolved that staff be directed to implement an asphalt walking path this year from Dante Crescent and Ludlow Crescent and to terminate the path at a reasonable location as to not impact the future installation of the new playground. And that staff be directed to complete maintenance to the playground area, including sand and hazard identification prior to reconstruction of the playground occurring in 2023. The reason for asking for waiving of the rules is that we are now sitting at a time that people are most often using the parks. This community, this neighborhood has been waiting a long time. It's not just about the pathways, it's even our entrance ways that need some significant upgrading. People can't get in there with their strollers. It's very difficult to walk into, and so we need this passed so that staff can get moving and the residents can be able to enjoy it in the time that they go to the park.
All right, then to the motion to waive rules, any other discussion? Councillor McCurry, did you have your hand up?
Mayor, following this, I would like to introduce another notice of motion about notices of motions.
All right, Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, as my ward mate has said, we would have had this in time, but we were working with staff to make sure that what we put in this notice of motion wasn't going to interfere with other work that was being done as part of this development. So that's why it's late. Otherwise, we would have had it here in time. So we beg council's indulgence to support this notice of motion.
All right, not seeing any other raised hands. Madam Clerk, please take the vote on this. Motion to waive.
Motion to waive the rules to introduce notice of motion 16.6 Silver Bridge Park is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0, achieving the 2/3 required. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Vento, Borkwell, Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor Chosky, read your notice of motion title.
Thank you. Silver Bridge Park.
What excellent work, yes. So let's move into bylaws then.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I would like to introduce a notice of motion, a waiver of the rules for a notice of motion that's not on tonight's agenda.
Go ahead. What
This
is
would
it?
be item 16.7, that section 1511.5 of chapter 15 be waived in order to provide the following notice of motion without having been included on the agenda for this meeting. And the notice of motion would be to conduct a review of notices of motion rules.
Do you have a seconder on that?
Councilor
All right, Councillor Martin. All right. Any discussion on the motion to waive the rules of this notice of motion can be read tonight? Councillor Van Tilburg.
I'm more than willing to follow the normal process to wait for a report to come. So why not put the notice in and then see it go through the system?
Any other discussion? Councillor Wall.
I actually think it's quite apt to do it this way. So that's why I would support it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none? Okay. Because you have to type the motion. All right, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on that waiver motion.
Motion to waive the rules to introduce the NOM about notices, rule review of notices of motion is carried on a recorded vote of 8-1, achieving the 2/3 required. Those in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, and Toski, Vento, Borkwell, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
All right, so move to bylaws. Councillor Secoli.
Want me to read the title, Mayor?
Oh, does it even have a title? Go
It
ahead.
has. If the clerk could remind me of the title, I'll read it. Review of rules of notices of motion, I guess.
Sounds good. All right, let's go to bylaws. First, second reading, Councillor Secoli.
All right, moved by myself and seconded by, should we keep it going? Councillor Carpenter. That leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. 75-2022 bylaw to authorize the execution of agreements individually dated and listed on Schedule A attached hereto. 1, joint use agreement between the Corporation of the City of Brantford and the Brant Haldeman Norfolk Catholic District School Board. Number 2, subdivision agreement between the Corporation of the City of Brantford, Grand Bridge Energy Incorporated, Shell Brant Developments Limited, and the mortgagee regarding West Brant Heights Phase 1 subdivision 2022-233. Number 3, agreement between the Corporation of the City of Brantford and Intact Public Entities regarding the 2022/2023 Corporate Insurance Program. 76-2022 bylaw to authorize the borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $17,500,000 towards the capital cost of a certain capital work of the Corporation of the City of Brantford. 77 2022 bylaw to declare and dedicate part of Block 5 Kerr Tract, City of Brantford, Part 3 on reference plan 2R-8205, City of Brantford being part of PIN 32074-1152, part of Block 5 Kerr Tract, City of Brantford being Part 2 on reference plan 2R-8728, City of Brantford being part of PIN 32074-1152 as part of the public highway to be known as Strickland Ave. 78-2022 bylaw to change the name of a portion of Shellard Lane being Part 1 reference plan 2R-8728, City of Brantford to Molnar Crescent. 79-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 being a bylaw to adopt various City of Brantford policies by repealing and replacing human resource policy -012. 80-2022 being a bylaw of the City of Brantford to relieve certain parts of lots or blocks from the provision of section 55 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended. 81-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. 82-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. 83-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. 84-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. 85-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw 160-90 being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location and use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford by removing the holding provision from the subject lands. 86-2022 bylaw to amend bylaw number 160-90 being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location and use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford. 87-2022 bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on May 24th, 2022.
Very good, Councilor Scully. Anybody want any of the bylaws separate for discussion purposes? Councilor Wall.
Sorry, just a question for the clerk. I know you guys are really good at this, but is there a bylaw regarding there's not? But my conflict? No?
Through the mayor, though, there's no bylaw associated with the What the Fest declaration.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Van Tilburg.
76-2022.
76-2022, of course. Councilor Carpenter.
Yeah, bylaw 77 and 78 for the same question.
77, 78. Okay, any others? All right, if I can call the vote then on the bylaws that have not been separated for discussion purposes.
So by the way, no, not for me. Yeah. The first and second reading of all bylaws not separated for discussion purposes is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll deal with 76, 2022 that Councilman Tilburg asked to be separated. Any discussion? Saying none, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on 76, 2022.
First and second reading of bylaw 76, 2022 is carried on a recorded vote of 8-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Van Tilburg.
Okay. And next, Councillor Carpenter, you asked 77 and 78. Do you want them as a group or individually?
They can be as a group. So I have the same question for both of them, and that would be, one of them is changing a street name to Strickland Ave, and the other one is Molnar Crescent, both great names. I just want to make sure that these are those have made the supreme sacrifice, veterans, and if not, I would like to make sure we've exhausted the list of veterans' names before we move on. Thank you.
Staff answer that question. Nicole?
Through you, Mayor Davis, to Member of Councils, Nicole Wilmot, Director of Planning and Development Services. Unfortunately, I don't have the approved name of street lists in front of me tonight. I can bring you back that information, but I am aware that we do have a priority listing, and the names that have been identified on the priority listing, which was dealt with a few months back, have been exhausted at this time. And we're now moved into the regular approved street name list.
Any further discussion on 77? Councilor McCreary.
We're changing the name of a portion of Shareholder Lane to another name.
The portion through the chair to Member of Council, it's the portion along Shareholder Lane that deals with the right of way. It's now being renamed to the name of the road as the legal out. It's required to ensure that we have created the legal access to the road once the subdivision gets registered and the roads are legally created.
So I didn't understand that at all.
So the portion of the right of way that there's a portion of the right of way along Shareholder Lane that connects with the new road. It is that portion there that will be renamed along with the street name. So it's Moeller and Strickland, and those will be renamed to allow for that legal access as that road is created.
So we're not actually changing the name then of a portion of the Shareholder Lane roadway?
Yes, it's a portion of the Shareholder Lane right of way. It's just a small portion as it connects to the new road that is renamed.
Is it an opened road?
It will be.
So Shareholder Lane the name of Shareholder Lane will change to Molnar Road.
That's correct. If you pull up the actual staff report, there is an appendix with a map showing the exact location of where Shareholder Lane is being proposed to be changed.
So is it like Ewing Drive becomes Balmoral becomes?
I'm not familiar with that one.
3rd Street? No?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm familiar
Colgate,
with that
Fairview, right? Hardy Road?
one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on 77 and 78 first and second reading, please.
First and second reading for bylaws 77 and 78-2022 is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Councillor Antosky, if you please read the resolution for third reading.
Thank you. That all bylaws having received a first and second reading be taken as read a third time and be finally passed and signed by the mayor and clerk.
So Councillor Van Tilburg, you want that separated still? That's 76. Councillor Carpenter, did you want? Good. All right. Does anybody else want any other bylaws separated for discussion at third reading? Seeing no raised hands. Madam Clerk, why don't we deal with 76 first?
Just prior to reading in the result, can I just confirm the seconder that was for the third reading with Councillor Antosky?
I'm sorry, we were having some technical issues over here. Pardon me.
This seconder. Who was it?
Councillor Carpenter, sorry.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. The third and final reading for bylaw 76-2022 is carried on a recorded vote of 8-1. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sokoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Vento.
So Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please, on all the other bylaws for third reading.
The third and final reading of all remaining bylaws is carried on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sokoli, Utley, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Vento, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so while I'm signing the bylaws, we'll do ward announcements and we'll go to my immediate right, Councillor Van Tilburg. Now we'll go over to Councillor Wall.
Wow. Thank you, Mayor Davis. So I'm going to give my normal shout out to the neighborhood associations because they are always looking for people who want to get more involved in their neighborhood. You can just easily go on Facebook. It's the Eagle Place Community Association, the Downtown Central Neighborhood Association, and then shared with the Ward 4 councillors is the East Ward Echo Place Neighborhood Association. They are gearing up to do all sorts of incredible stuff now that the COVID restrictions are being lifted or are completely lifted. And there's just all sorts of activities for kids and families and garbage cleanups in your neighborhood. Go be a part of your neighborhood association, especially if you can. And then if you'll indulge me, I really want to talk about this one. You can find this on the City of Brantford's Facebook page. Do you have any feedback you'd like to share with the Brantford Police Services Board regarding police service priorities? Please complete, get this, an anonymous online survey. You can visit letstalkbrantford.ca BPSB priorities. So letstalkbrantford.ca BPSB priorities to learn about how you can provide input, including participating in our upcoming community town hall. This one, trust me, if you've been the councillor of Eagle Place for the last 3.5 years, is very important. Please have your voice heard. Let's Talk Brantford is doing really great work, and we can't make the decisions that we need to make or do the things that we need to do without your input. It's invaluable. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Well, on June 13th, I thought we were going to be doing a flag raising for both seniors and elder abuse prevention at 10 o'clock in Harmony Square. And I also want to put a shout out that to staff, the seniors toolkits are out. New ones are printed. Members of the public would like to know where all the sources for assistance for seniors are in the community. It's basically a booklet, and it provides all the services that seniors might want anywhere in the community of Brant. And it's a great book to look for any services. And it's also online. If you are computer literate and you're online a lot, you can get the same book digitally, or I can get it to you in a hard copy, or you can contact Victim Services and they'll make sure you get one. Thank you.
Councillor Antosky.
Thank you. Just two, also a shout out for the Brantland Neighborhood Association. They're finally eager to get started. One of their activities is baseball, and they're starting this week. They're always looking for volunteers and looking for new activities as the community changes. There's probably some new things that we should be looking at to offer the community. And community gardens started to open this past weekend. So if the one in your neighborhood is not open yet, it will be soon. They are also always looking for volunteers. But it is gardening season, and there is healthy local food coming to a neighborhood near you soon. Thank you.
Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thanks. June 2nd is the provincial election. You can vote advanced polls up until then. Get involved, learn what's up, cast a ballot, make a difference. You can also make a difference here. Nominations are open for city council seats and for challenges to the mayor. That goes on for some time. I think we have about 4 or 5 or 6 that have registered so far. Don't wait till the lineup gets too long, folks. Weigh in. And I want to elaborate on Councillor Wall's point about our police services board public feedback. Many folks in the community are frustrated because crimes, which some might call minor, victimize them. No crimes minor if you're the victim. Councillor Wall spoke eloquently to that. Many people in the community also have had their fill of noisy mufflers, squealing tires, racing cars. I come down Grant Avenue most mornings, and I got to say the speed limit is just a guess, and most folks are doing 75K. So there are 2 opportunities for you to come here and talk to us in this room. Councillor Martin and I will be there. Chair Littell will be there. Board members George and Bonner will be there. So your first opportunity is Thursday, June the 9th in this room from 6 to 8. But if there's a big crowd, we'll stay late to hear everybody. The next opportunity is Saturday, June the 11th, starting at 11 in the morning and again going till 1 o'clock or as late as people want to talk. It's important to have your views heard as we deliberate the future of policing priorities of the city. So please get involved. You can do it anonymously. You can come here in person. I'll give you a chance to see this fine building. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. No, Councillor McCreary covered off the one I was going to talk about.
Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May the 29th, between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., which is a Sunday, there is a spring 2022 Homedale Art Crawl. And I think you can find out more information on the Homedale Neighborhood Association website. But there is an invitation here from one artist who lives on Palmerston Ave, and you can just stroll around the neighborhood or drive around the neighborhood and get out and walk. It should be a fun time, especially if the weather is good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Secole.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a lot of ward announcements, actually. So June the 4th, we have the West Brant and the Shellard Lane Community Garage Sale. So come on out and drive around, and there's going to be like 1 million houses having a garage sale that day. It's a very fun day. June 11th, we have the Pleasant Ridge Park grand opening. So come on out and check that out. There will be a ribbon cutting at that event at 4 o'clock. June the 18th, this one I'm most excited for. We're going to have a grand opening of the small dog park that's within Dogford Park. So if you have small little dogs and you're scared of them, being terrorized by the big dogs, even though I feel the little dog, it's reverse. Yeah. So we have a new little area to keep the little dogs, or I should say the big dogs, safe from the little dogs. So come out and check that out. It is open already, but we're going to have some festivities and some prizes and things like that. And Cockshut Park will have an opening, and that'll be taking place on June 25th from 11 to 2. And there will be an official ribbon cutting there, and that'll be at around 12. So if you want to check that out. And I do want to point out that as the summer approaches and the kids get bored and they're sitting around on their iPads all day, the Sea Cadets and the Navy League Cadets offer some awesome free programming that will get the kids out of the house and teach them some awesome life skills. It's a really cool program. So if you're looking for something that's free and will get your kids out of the house and teach them some great stuff, I would encourage you to check them out on Facebook. So go on Facebook and just type in Brantford Cadets and you'll get everything that you need there. And that's it for me, Mayor Davis. Thank you.
Well, that's it for everyone, and the meeting is now adjourned.